Medieval India, page number 188, chapter number 15. Mahabat Khan. Shah Jahan's rebellion kept the empire distracted for 4 years, resulted in the loss of Kandahar, and emboldened the Deccanese to recover all the territories surrendered to the Mughal during Akbar's time and in subsequent campaigns. It also pointed to basic weakness of the system. A successful prince tended to become a rival focus of power, particularly when it was felt that the monarch was not able or willing to yield the supreme power himself. Shah Jahan's constant charge was that following Jahangir's failing health, all effective power had slipped into the hands of Nur Jahan Begum, a charge which is difficult to accept since Shah Jahan's father-in-law Asaf Khan was the imperial diwan. Also, though in poor health, Jahangir was still mentally alert and no decisions could be taken without his concurrence. Jahangir's illness created the further danger that an ambitious noble might try to use the situation to gather supreme power in his hands. An unexpected episode brought this to the fore. Mahabat Khan, who had played a leading role in dealing with Shah Jahan's rebellion, had been feeling disgruntled because certain elements at the court were eager to clip his wings following the end of Prince's rebellion. Summoned to the court to render accounts, Mahabat Khan came with a trusted body of Rajputs and seized the emperor at an opportune moment when the royal camp was crossing the river Jhelum on its way to Kabul. Nur Jahan, who had not been apprehended, escaped across the river, but an assault against Mahabat Khan failed ignominiously. Nur Jahan now tried other ways. She surrendered herself to Mahabat Khan in order to be close to Jahangir. Within 6 months, taking advantage of the mistakes committed by Mahabat Khan, who was a soldier but not a diplomat or an administrator, and due to the growing unpopularity of his Rajput soldiers, Nur Jahan was able to wean away most of the nobles from Mahabat Khan's side. Realizing his precarious position, Mahabat Khan abandoned Jahangir and fled from the court. Sometime later, he joined Shah Jahan, who was biding his time. The defeat of Mahabat Khan was the greatest victory attained by Nur Jahan, and it was due in no small measure to her cool courage and sagacity. However, Nur Jahan's triumph was short-lived, for in less than a year's time, Jahangir breathed his last, not far from Lahore in 1627. The wily and shrewd Asaf Khan, who had been appointed Vakil by Jahangir and who had been carefully preparing the ground for the succession of his son-in-law Shah Jahan, now came into open. Supported by the Diwan, the chief nobles in the army, he made Nur Jahan a virtual prisoner and sent an urgent summons to Shah Jahan in the Deccan. Shah Jahan reached Agra and was enthroned amidst great rejoicing. Earlier, at his instance, all his rivals, including his imprisoned brother, cousins, etc., were done to death. This precedent and the earlier precedent of a son rebelling against his father, which was begun by Jahangir and was followed by Shah Jahan, was to lead to bitter consequences for the Mughal dynasty. Shah Jahan himself was to reap the bitter fruits he had grown. As for Nur Jahan, after attaining the throne, Shah Jahan fixed a settlement upon her. She lived a retired life till her death 18 years later. Shah Jahan's reign was 1628 to 1658 was full of many-sided activities. We have already studied his Deccan policy. We shall now turn to the foreign policy of the Mughals, which reached a high watermark under Shah Jahan. Foreign policy of the Mughals, page number 188. We have seen how, following the breakup of the Timurid Empire in the second half of the 15th century, three powerful empires, the Uzbeks, the Safavid, and the Ottoman, established themselves in the Transoxania, Central Asia, Iran, and Turkey. The Uzbeks were the natural enemies of the Mughals, having been responsible for the expulsion of Babur and other Timurid princes from Samarkand and the adjoining area, including the Khorasan. At the same time, the Uzbeks clashed with the rising power of the Safavids who claimed Khorasan. The Khorasanian plateau linked Iran with Central Asia, and the trade routes to China and India passed across it. It was natural for the Safavids and the Mughals to ally against the Uzbeks' danger, especially as there was no frontier disputes between them with the exception of Kandahar. The Uzbeks tried to exploit the sectarian differences with the Safavid rulers of Iran, who had ruthlessly persecuted the Sunnis. Both the Uzbeks and the Mughal rulers were Sunnis. But the Mughals were too broad minded to be awed, to be swayed by sectarian differences. Annoyed at the alliance of Mughals with the Shia power, Iran, the Uzbeks occasionally stirred up the fanatic Afghan and Baluchi tribesmen living in the northwest frontier tracts between Peshawar and Kabul. Perhaps the most powerful empire in the West Asia at the time was that of the Ottoman Turks. The Ottoman or the Usmanli Turks, so called after the name of the first ruler Usman, dated 1326, had overrun Asia Minor and Eastern Europe, and also conquered Syria, Egypt, and Arabia by 1529. They had received the title Sultan of Rumi from shadowy caliph living at Cairo. Later, they assumed the title of Padshah-e-Islam. The rise of Shiite power in Iran made the Ottoman sultans conscious of the danger to their eastern flank, that the rise of Safavids would encourage Shiism in their own territories. In 1514, the Turkish Sultan defeated the Shah of Iran in a famous battle. The Ottomans clashed with Iran for the control of Baghdad, also for the areas in North Iran around Yerevan. They gradually extended their control on the coastal areas around Arabia and made a bid to oust the Portuguese from the Persian Gulf and the Indian waters. The Ottoman threat from the west made the Persians keen to befriend the Mughals, particularly when they had to face the aggressive Uzbek power in the east. The Mughals refused to be drawn in a tripartite Ottoman Mughal Uzbek alliance against the Persians, as it would have upset the Asian balance of power and left them alone to face the might of the Uzbeks. Alliance with Iran was also helpful in promoting trade with Central Asia. If the Mughals had a stronger navy, they might perhaps have sought a closer alliance with Turkey, which was also a naval power and was engaged in a struggle against the navies of the European powers in the Mediterranean. As it was, the Mughals were chary of closer relationships with Turkey since they were not prepared to counterance the claim to superiority made by the Turkish Sultan and its successors to Caliph. These were some of the factors which shaped the foreign policy of the Mughals. Thank you everyone for tuning in. In the next part, we'll start with Akbar and the Uzbeks on page number 189. Thank you, all the best, and do share and subscribe to the channel and keep supporting us. Thank you everyone.